good afternoon. I am feeling absolutely privileged to be moderating such a superstar panel today, and on a very important topic about building the foundation of trust on AI policy, protection, and prosperity. The AI global landscape in policy and governance is remaining interesting, if not uncertain. We do see in the US a potential upcoming tension between the legal and state regulation. We do see the European Union changing potentially direction on the EU.AI Act. We do see new centers of gravity coming into existence globally. And on the other hand, we also have developing countries who want to keep up or catch up with the global AI race. The AI development can be seen on the one hand as a global arms race, but on the other hand, it could be the future of AI is to be written, so it can be a future of international collaboration and multilateralism, of which I feel very committed to. And I would like to start with Jerry Sheehan. Jerry, the OECD played a leading role in shaping the global AI policy. Could you tell us about the impact of the OECD's work?
Well, great. Well, thank you. And it's great to be back here at the Grand Palais for another AI Summit, and appreciate the opportunity to tell you about what we have been doing. I think at the core of OECD's work on AI has been the development of the AI recommendation and the AI principles, which promote a very human-centric, rights-based approach to AI development, helping us move toward trustable AI. At the same time recognizing, just as you say, we see this pivot. We need continued investments in research and development on AI, and we need to continue to develop the ecosystem between industry and academia and civil society as well to help advance AI applications. So for us, I mean, as a first step, our impact has been getting international consensus around these principles. I'd like to say the principles themselves have become a global reference point for discussions about AI governance and trustable AI in the international context, adopted not only by the 38 OECD countries, but as well through the G20 and through another set of countries that have adhered to them. So we're now at almost 50 countries that have adopted these principles and are interested in putting them into practice. I would say what we're aiming to do now to help increase the impact of these principles is maybe twofold. First is by trying to broaden the scope of those who've joined in adhering to these principles. And that's something that we've taken up through our global partnership on AI, which is an entity that merged in with the OECD just over a year ago and has an ambition of expanding its own membership, currently at 44 member countries, with a clear ambition to expand that membership to all regions and all partners in the world that want to pursue development toward a more human-centric, rights-based approach to AI to help it solve a range of societal problems and improve our abilities around education, production, mobility, and many, many other areas as well. Beyond just expanding the scope, we're trying to move into more implementation. How do we take these high-level principles about trusted AI and secure AI and move those into practice? And so we're taking a few steps now. The first is to develop something of an AI index, so it can be used to help countries measure how well they compare in their implementation of these recommendations. The second piece of that is then developing what we're calling an AI policy toolkit. So how can policymakers in particular move from principles about resilience, trustworthiness, security, and AI, and identify good policies and practices that they can implement in their own national context to advance safe and secure AI. We're supporting that work through a number of regional activities that we have in place now, co-creation workshops, where we're trying to engage not just with the OECD countries, but explicitly with emerging and developing economies as well, to understand their specific needs, identify where there are good practices that they've developed that we can put into place. And then just to say finally, we're trying to understand specific challenges around AI applications in particular domains and sectors. What does it take to really make AI work in the health sector? What does it take to make AI work in the manufacturing and mobility and the agriculture and food production services, where again, the specificities are going to be very different from one sector to another. We need to understand those better and work out the balances so we're pushing AI forward at the same time as we're putting in the needed protections to ensure its integrity and trustability.
Thank you very much, Jerry. This is an excellent bridge to our next panelist, Andrew. The ICC produced several papers on AI governance. Can you tell us about what AI needs to be trustworthy from a business perspective?
Sure thing. I'm very, very conscious that is a very big question to answer in 3 minutes, so I'll try to speak quickly. But also I want to really focus in on one particular angle, which is the perspective of smaller businesses, SMEs. We recently completed a study, or a survey rather, together with the World Trade Organization, which will be published in mid-December, we hope. But looking at the raw data from that survey, what you see is amazing optimism from small, medium-sized businesses in the potential of AI to reduce costs, to enhance operations, to innovate, to communicate more effectively. But at the same time, those SMEs report severe barriers in terms of adopting technologies, access to technology, cost, skills, fragmented regulation. So from our perspective, when we think about trust, we increasingly think about how do you make AI accessible and available to businesses of all shapes and all sizes. And to us, and this comes through in the earlier work we've done, it really means making sure that there are effective policies around reliable infrastructure, access to high quality data, linguistic inclusion, skills development, but all backed crucially by governance that is truly interoperable and a collaborative approach towards governance and regulation. And for us, really, I think the key point is if we want AI to be trusted by the business community at large, it really does need to be accessible to the SMEs who have so much hope in its potential to lower costs and to enable innovation across the world.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Now we're coming to the World Bank. Clay, the World Bank is launching a flagship report today on. Can you maybe tell us about what light the flagship report sheds on the trust in AI?
Thank you very much. Coincidentally, today we are releasing a flagship Digital Progress and Trends Report 2025, Strengthening AI Foundations. So this report provides data and insights to developing countries in shaping their strategy access to AI and highlighting the important role of government in making sure AI benefit their countries. The report also introduced what we call a foundational 4C framework: connectivity, compute, context, and competency as the essential pillars for AI adoption, adaptation, and innovation. It also identifies increasing AI divide because 24% of internet users in developed countries, high-income countries, are using generative AI, but only 6% in middle-income country and less than 1% in low-income country users are using generative AI. But we also identify a promising trend of the increased adoption of small AI solutions. So small AI are domain-specific application-driven applications capable of running with limited infrastructure, unreliable energy infrastructure, based on limited data sets to produce domain-specific solutions to meet development challenges. So just imagine a smallholder farmer is able to use his phone to diagnose and treat crop diseases and determine the right fertilizer to use and boost yields right from his phone with a few taps. So we believe small AI solutions offer a unique opportunity to provide immediate localized impact, bypass a lot of traditional development barriers, and foster homegrown innovation and adoption. However, without trust, none of the above is possible. And as we know, AI trust could come from biased data, algorithm. It could be coming from model opacity and lack of explainability, as well as accountability gaps in the AI ecosystem. So in our other report, we recognize there are two related challenges to the governments in addressing AI trust issue. The first one is the challenge is how do you foster societal trust to encourage adoption? Because if the adoption rate decrease, the AI applications will stay limited. And the second challenge is how do you ensure as you are using AI, it builds trust, not undermine trust? Because AI can be used to detect fraud and corruption, but it can also be used to generate convincing misinformation and launch sophisticated cyber attack. So we propose there are three priority areas the governments can focus on. The first one is to ensure implementation of data protection measures with oversight. So by implementing strong data governance and protection measures, it can build the trust in using AI as well as minimizing the risk of misusing AI. The second one is to start with effective regulation and oversight. We suggest to take risk-based approach in high-impact sectors, as well as flexible rules to balance between innovation and protection. And lastly, to make sure that international cooperation to remain flexible in the adoption of AI. And we encourage government to take these measures to address trust-related issues.
Thank you very much, Clay, and I highly recommend that everyone checks out the flagship report. We will continue with a very important and often controversial topic, which is the IP rights. Ken-Ichiro, can you tell us something about the initiatives on multi-stakeholder agreements regarding IP property laws?
Thank you very much. We believe that the trust in AI should start in the context of open and inclusive dialogues. So that's why we are implementing several initiatives. And let me touch upon two concrete examples. One is that WIPO's conversation on intellectual property and artificial intelligence. We bring everybody on board, so multi-stakeholders, not only member states, but also industries, academias, small and medium-sized enterprises, as well as civil society. With that, we can have different views, and they can express their own ideas, but without any strong pressure where they are supposed to reach an immediate agreement. In that environment, we can ensure more open and fresh dialogues. And actually, we have gathered more than 17,000 participants from all over the world, more than 160 countries. So this is a testimony that when we have the open and inclusive dialogue, we can gather various different opinions so that we can see future possible common denominators. The other example is which is coming quite soon in March, WIPO's AI Infrastructure Interchange, AIII. We call it AIII. This is more on technical issues. For example, if we talk about the question, how can we recognize AI-generated artworks? Or how can we make sure the right protection of the creators while we are encouraging the promotion or development of artificial intelligence? This is a very difficult question. Or how can we make sure that technology, such as watermarks, can work effectively? So, to tackle those technical issues, we are planning to have another open discussion. But I'd like to emphasize, this is not like typical UN. This is not for rule making. This is not for treaty negotiations. We would like to have an open conversation, technical conversation, so that we can see how technology can contribute to tackle this issue. The launch date is March 18th, 2026. And we have already started our preparation. There are several video podcasts are available, episode 1, 2, and 3. So if you are interested in, please check out the episodes on WIPO's website. And the 4th episode is coming this Friday. So please stay tuned. And to conclude with that, we would like to make sure that all inclusive and open conversation leads to more trust amongst multiple stakeholders. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I don't know about you, but I absolutely love the approach of producing a podcast for this. And I know that I'm going to be checking it out after this event. So the next point, when we're talking about policies, obviously there is the policy and then there is the adoption. And I would like to ask Jerry Sheehan, how does OECD's work on AI policy inform AI adoption?
Okay, great question. We are at the AI or the Adopt AI Summit here, are we not? So I think as we look at AI, I mean, we see it as being a great force for both economic productivity benefits, as well as for an ability to solve a whole range of societal problems. And I listed a number of those before. Of course, to do that, fundamental is ensuring that AI is widely adopted. And that means across countries as well as within countries. And it means across our industry sectors. And from small to large companies. And we heard some of the stories about some of the statistics already there. I think what we're finding in our work already, one is that we can see productivity benefits whether we look at it from a macroeconomic point of view or when we look at firm-level efforts and firm-level analyses to see how it affects the ability of individual companies to become more productive. But we're also seeing in our work that there's quite a bit of room for improvement in AI adoption. So while there's been significant increases just between 2023, when Gen AI kind of hit the scene, and the end of 2024, we're still at a very early stage. So in our numbers, looking across OECD countries, the more developed economies, and looking at companies from 10 employees on up, we still find that AI adoption rate, systematic AI adoption in these firms, is still only at about 14 or 15%. When you look, and it still remains very highly concentrated. So if you look at the adoption rates in sectors like the ICT, the information communications, telecommunications sector, it can be as high as 45%. When we start looking through finance, healthcare, agriculture, when we look at construction and food services, for example, it's down around 7 or 8% across those sectors. So still quite a bit to go to see more widespread diffusion. And of course, as Andrew was saying, quite a bit of difference as well between large firms, which tend to be regionally located, and small firms, which are much more geographically dispersed. In our numbers, we see large firms reporting AI adoption rates of about 40%, maybe about 20% for medium-sized firms, and for small firms, the most numerous, right, and distributed, it's only about 12% in our data. So we have a long way to go. And I think I've already heard quite a number of other comments along this panel about what's needed from a policy perspective to shift that and accelerate the adoption rate. So in our work, we're also looking at first just starting with basic connectivity. If you want to have good AI, you need some access to basic connectivity. There's still large connectivity gaps between countries, between developing and emerging and developed economies. Even within countries, we just published some data this past summer that's showing within countries between rural and urban areas, fixed broadband speeds, upload and download speeds that are still about 40% different. So again, if we want to see more widespread uptake of AI, first of all, we need to make sure we've got more equal distribution of broadband benefits. I think similar to what we've heard already, we're looking at the other needs around other digital technologies. You need access to compute, you need access to software, and you need access to data to make this happen, as well as skills. Skills development doesn't necessarily just mean around top AI skills. We find that there are a lot of complementary skills that are needed for successful adoption in businesses and firms. It's management skills and others. And then, of course, the need for financing, especially among the SME community, where that remains a barrier. So we're trying to look at policies to do all of those horizontally, if you will. But at the same time, I mentioned the sectoral work we're doing. The expression, if you will, of these shortcomings in each sector are different, and we need to address them at that degree as well. Looking at healthcare, looking at agriculture, looking at manufacturing and other sectors, and how do we take a more sectoral approach to promote adoption?
Thank you very much, Jerry. Andrew, I'm going to ask you to make the impossible possible. Can you tell us in 2 minutes what the success strategies are for businesses to effectively achieve trusted AI.
Okay, I'll try and say 4 things in 2 minutes. I'm going to have to go very, very quickly. So I think from our work with companies across a whole range of different sectors and sizes, I think we see 2 very good practices. The first is adoption of international market-driven standards in a clear, open, and transparent way. The other thing that I think deserves a lot more attention is really the establishment of AI governance as a board-level responsibility, both in terms of assessing risks, but also guiding and adopting self-regulatory strategies. But the 2 bigger things I would point to are really beyond what companies can do on their own. The first is clearly the importance of collaboration. And I think it's telling that the 2024 Edelman Trust Barometer showed that when business and governments collaborate in new technology domains, particularly AI, you see a huge increase in public trust in the application of technology. So that collaboration point around governance, regulation is absolutely key. And then the final point I want to make, it picks up on what Jerry was saying. It also picks up on, I think, one of the points that came out of the last panel featuring Meta. And you may disagree with many of the issues the speaker from Meta raised, but the point on fragmentation is key. And we really see this time and time again. If Meta is struggling to deal with 200 different AI-related regulations, principles, frameworks, imagine what that is like for a small business looking to deploy AI in a meaningful way for the first time. And I think we need to understand that as a key barrier to uptake and really think about what we can do collaboratively between governments, business, civil society to address that issue. And we'd certainly see fora like this as an essential place to have that dialogue.
This was exactly 2 minutes. I'm very impressed. Thank you very much. Nikolai, so at the World Bank, our aim, what we're working for, is to end poverty on a livable planet. So the World Bank is well positioned to assist the developing countries to use AI, to adopt AI to boost prosperity. What can you tell us about your work in this field, in this regard?
Thank you. I want to set the context first about boosting prosperity. So about 1.2 billion young people will be ready for jobs in the next 10 to 15 years. But from those emerging markets, we estimated only 400 million jobs will be created for this group. So resulting in a gap of 800 million opportunities. So what the World Bank is doing is we adopted our latest digital strategy in 4 strategic areas. The first one is improving access to digital connectivity. The second one is making device and data affordable to the poor. And number 3 is to unlock digital ecosystems. And the fourth one is to strengthening the developing countries' AI readiness. So we are following the 4C frameworks I mentioned earlier in terms of connectivity. So without reliable energy, there's no way to build connectivity. So we have a flagship project called M300 where we are in close collaboration with the African Development Bank with the ambitious goal to connect 300 million people in Africa to reliable energy supply by the end of 2030. In terms of compute, only 16% of cloud computing output to the developing countries. So one of our goals is to make sure powerful cloud computing-based AI services are accessible to the developing country. Now, in terms of context, which means quality and local relevant data, the World Bank is establishing local digital libraries in African countries to provide quality data, share back to the community for building, for example, small AI-based solutions. And the fourth one is competency, which talks about skills and talents. So the World Bank is monitoring job in local countries very closely and design customized learning and training program to the general public. Although the World Bank is well positioned to help developing countries in adopting AI, this is a call for action. There's no way for us to do it alone. So we need private sectors and other international organizations to collaborate together to achieve this goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clay. So another mission impossible for you, Ken-Ichiro, in 2 minutes. So obviously education does play a role in promoting trust in AI. Can you tell us about the role of education also in terms of intellectual property rights?
Thank you very much. So let me touch upon 3 things in 2 minutes, so better than 4. I think the key word is empowerment. If we empower people, they can be more trustful, they can be more comfortable to take actions. First example, we have 15-page, very short, 15-page booklet called Navigating Intellectual Property Guide. This is mainly for small entities such as SMEs, because they are not familiar with some do's and don'ts about intellectual property in terms of generative AI. So there are some very, very basic knowledge explained and some key points, and there are concrete checklists so that the small and medium enterprises can check where they are. Second one, also mentioned by OECD, IP, intellectual property, and AI policy toolkits. There are many questions for the policymakers, but there is no right universal answers. So what we provide is we share some possible scenarios and possible consequences. So the policymakers can be well informed, and based on that, they can make right decision for their own jurisdictions. Third example is AI and intellectual property policy game. It's not on mobile phone yet. It's card game, and that can be used in the classroom and policymakers. So this is another example. Thank you very much.
All right, and that leaves me exactly 8 seconds to sum it up. So I'm just going to say, go check out the podcast, go check out the flagship report, go check out the OECD.AI's website, where you're going to find a lot of very valuable materials and the many papers that have been published by the ICC, and enjoy the rest of the event.